Today I will be answering one of the most common questions I am asked. Is it better to have just one bird so they will bond with me, or will they be happier in a pair? Should I get one or two birds? You think my current birdie will be happier with a friend? Am I enough for my birdie? Do they need more? What's best? The quick answer, well, you see, birds are highly sociable animals. They have a high flock drive and a high drive to mate. They mate for life. They should be kept in pairs if you want to keep them as happy and healthy as they can be. In some countries, it is actually against the law to keep any highly sociable animals alone. Of course, that doesn't mean that a single bird can't be happy, but they will need a lot of time, each and every single day, playing, interacting, and being flock mates with their people. A bonded pair of birds will still bond with you just fine. They will be just as friendly, they will still come to you for love, interaction, and play. I spend hours each day with anywhere from half a dozen to 30, 40, 50 or more birdies on my head and shoulders, all playing with each other and with me. Shared sorrow is reduced and shared joy is increased. Slightly a little better. My advice comes from years of experience, not just from the breeding program, but from the hundreds of adult rescues and surrenders that I have worked with. I'm not just some bored dumbass with a GPT subscription. I know whereof I speak. I've been working with the birds 12 hours a day, at least, every day, for a very long time now. I got my first pair of birds long before beard, belly, or baldness. And I'm not just trying to rehome more birds. I know that most of the people watching this don't live anywhere near me, and I don't ship. Just too hard on the birds and my nerves. My main goal, as always, is happy and healthy birds. The rest of this video is more of a deep dive into this topic, for those people who are serious about making an informed decision for their birds. I'll be going over the reasons why, the pros and cons, the extra costs, and the extra work, and how to pick a new companion bird. Lastly, I'll be going over how to make introductions, just in case you want to get your current birdie a new friend. But first, you might notice some strange cuts and edits. That is because of Lola, a new Amazon that I have taken in for re-socialization. She is very loud. Even putting her in the next room, when she yells, it overloads the microphone. Not so good for those of you who are listening with headphones. She yells, I just repeat myself and try to cut that part out. First, the reasons why. Highly sociable, high flock drive, that's just how birds are, how they live in the wild. They require the constant social interaction that a mate and a flock gives. Safety in numbers, they are prey animals after all. They fear the predator. Even if they are safe at home, it's just built into them. They rely on each other for alert sounds and security. Being alone can cause them stress, and this can lead to problems like aggression, biting, and feather plucking. A bird can get lonely very quickly. They do need a companion around all day and night. If there is someone home all day, no worries. But people can be busy. Work, chores, activities, or getting up at 6 a.m. like me to hit the gym and run 10 kilometers. Doing whatever we gotta do to get by. In my aviary, all the birds are kept in pairs. Pairs are easier to work with, easier to keep, happier and healthier. My personal pets that are bonded with me, in pairs. All the new rescues and surrenders that come in, paired up as soon as possible. And same-sex pairs work just as well as male-female pairs. One of the techniques I use to train new rescues and surrenders is to pair them up with an established bird, one that will already come to me. When one bird of a pair is on your shoulder, the other one will soon follow. In fact, in some countries it is actually illegal to keep birds as singles. In Switzerland, Germany, Austria, and the Netherlands, it is against the law to keep any highly sociable animal as a single. They must be kept in pairs. They must have a friend. Keeping them isolated is considered cruelty under the Animal Welfare Act. There is nothing like this in North America, but most animal welfare groups do recommend keeping social animals in pairs or groups. Some pet stores here in Canada actually won't sell you a guinea pig unless it has a friend. All the birds that I work with here are considered colony birds. They live in flocks. Budgies, loveys, linneys, cockatiels, connors, quakers, ringnecks, and more. All these small and medium-sized birds do best in pairs and groups. In the wild, they live in flocks. And some of these flocks can get huge. Budgies in Australia can form super swarms numbering in the millions. Cockatiels and quakers can be in flocks that stretch for kilometers across the sky. Even connors can be in flocks of up to 100. These birds will also mate for life and form strong bonds. Look at lovebirds. It's literally in their name. They need a companion that will be there all day and all night. They play with each other, entertain each other, and even preen each other, preventing parasites and pin feathers from becoming a pestering problem. They rely on each other for safety and security and alert sounds. They need that constant mental stimulation to keep from getting bored, from getting lonely. Of course, many people do keep their birds as a single, but in that case they really need their people to be their flock. They need hours of out-of-cage interaction each day. They can ride around on a shoulder, follow you from room to room, or perch nearby and just watch you work. They don't really do as well alone if their people are out of the house most of the day. Work, school, activities, chores, there is always something that needs doing. This puts them under stress, and stress can lead to depression and a whole host of problems. Aggression, screaming, biting, feather plucking, binge eating, sickness, anxiety, more. This is one of the reasons that I make my birdie companionship videos. 8 to 10 hours of various happy and healthy groups of birdies just going through their daily cycles. Just play these videos for your birds while you are away, and they will be more secure, entertained, and part of a larger flock. Isolation is also a problem if their people go on vacation. Just having someone come over to water the plants and feed the birds once a day is not really enough, especially if you'll be gone for more than a few days. Boarding your birds at an aviary or with someone who knows birds is a much better choice. That was the why. Now for the how much. How much more money, more time, more work, and more noise. How much more money is pretty simple. First, whatever it costs you in your area to purchase or adopt another birdie. After that, pretty much two can live for as cheap as one. The cage size will be the same, 1 or 2 birds. You will still need a suitably sized cage. You can see one of my earlier videos for more information about that. Food costs, birds aren't that big. They don't eat that much. If you're spending a whole lot of money on fancy bird food and treats, you're doing it wrong. Simple is better. Seed and fresh. Check my channel for that video too. But what about vet costs, you say? Well, a happy and healthy bird fed a proper diet in a proper cage with lots of out-of-cage interaction and exercise should never need a vet. I haven't been to one in years. Keep your birds healthy, keep them happy, keep them safe, and they will be fine. Birds do not need vaccinations, they can't get spayed or neutered, and they don't really benefit from going in for vet checkups. When the end of life does come in 15, 25, 35 years or more, and they are suffering, then yes. If they injure themselves and are in pain, then yes. That being said, as with any animal, dogs, cats, birds, it is always a good idea to have some money put aside just in case. Now, for how much more time and work? It'll pretty much be the same. You might be cleaning the cage a little more often, sweeping the floor a little more often, but again, two can live pretty much as cheaply as one in time and work as well as money. You'll probably have them out more often and for longer. Two are, after all, more fun than one, and they are better behaved in pairs. For the most part, it'll just mean 2 birds on your shoulder playing with each other as well as with you. More noise is a big concern that a lot of people do have, especially with the louder birds like connors and quakers. In real life, it won't be twice as loud. Sound doesn't really work like that, but it will be in stereo. With a pair of birds, you'll probably have fewer loud calls, but a bit more chatter. But then again, each bird is an individual. You never quite know what you're going to get. Now that the how much is out of the way, we get to the how. The easiest way, of course, is to get two hand-fed babies at the same time, or a pair of rescues that are already bonded. The hand-fed babies have already spent their entire lives together. They have lived together, played together, eaten together, slept together, grown together. Gender does not matter, their bond will be just fine. And still being babies, they will be in that perfect age to bond with their new people. Taking in a rescue pair is also a good way to go. Obviously, they're already bonded. Rescues are a higher challenge level, of course, and you will likely have to adjust to them instead of the other way around. In this case, it might be better to work with one bird at a time. Remember, where one goes, what one does, the other will likely follow. But what if you already have one and want to add another to get them a little friend? First thing, you have to get a bird of the same breed. Birds of a feather flock together. Budgie to budgie, cockatiel to cockatiel, and so on. It can be risky, sometimes very risky, to mix. For the most part, it is just not healthy or safe. Different birds will have different personalities, different social needs, different interactions, different cycles. They'll also have different seed mixes and dietary needs. And if they are of different sizes, different levels of assertion, there can be a very serious safety issue. It is always recommended to have the same bird when they're sharing a cage, when they are to be made a pair. When looking for another bird to introduce to yours, you also have to consider age. A hand-fed baby is of course the easiest. They're at that perfect age. They can adapt well, and they don't really come across as much of a threat since they're not really sexually mature. If you're adopting a rescue, it can be harder to make introductions. Some adult birds are set in their ways or have previous trauma or other issues. This is why most of the rescues that I adopt out are already in pairs. I've already done the introductions. Right on my boots. Introductions are not usually all that difficult, and there are some tips that will help. I've made hundreds of introductions over the years and only really had problems a couple of times. Budgies are the easiest because of their high flock drive, and cockatiels because they are usually so passive. Loveys, parrotlets, conners, and quakers can be a little harder. What I usually do is just put the two birds together right away and then watch. Pull up a chair, sit back a ways, and watch them. There will probably be some puffed feathers, some chirping off, and maybe some lunging or beak wrestling. They have to test each other out a bit, establish a pecking order. You just sit there and watch them for about an hour or so. You only really have to step in if the feathers start flying or if they really start fighting. If this happens, I usually fall back on the spray bottle method. It's completely safe with room temperature water. Just give the offenders a quick spritz with a spray bottle to make them reset. The way it works is like this. When a bird wants to fight, they have to work themselves up a little bit. Just like two drunk young men at a bar, first there will be the dirty looks, then the insults and a little push and shove before the fighting starts. Giving them a little spritz startles them, resets them back to the beginning, and they have to start all over again. Do that a few times, and sooner or later, they should calm down. There are some other things you can do as well. Sometimes it is easier to make for the first introductions in a neutral space. If you put them together in your bird's home cage, they might feel the need to defend their home, to defend against the intruder. The same goes for your shoulder, or even during free flight. Defending their favorite perch, defending their home. You can try putting them together in an unfamiliar cage, or in some other room, and just see how they react. For especially hard cases, you might have to do the introductions slowly over time. Just having them in their cages in the same room and bringing their cages a little closer to each other, a little bit at a time, over a few days, until they are almost touching, and see how they react. Be careful if only one of them is out of the cage for free flight. Loveys especially like to bite the toes of the other birds landing on their cage. Either way, keep an eye out for the good signs. Feather ruffling, lifting a foot, or perching on one leg, maybe shaking their feathers out, or scratching their heads. If you see them preening each other, or eating from the same bowl at the same time, things are going well. Again, I have done many introductions, and only had short-term problems a couple of times. And of course, in some cases, they could get a little too friendly, especially if they've been alone for a while, a little pent up, so to say. You don't want a broody female, one that lays eggs and is constantly incubating. The best thing to do if you're worried about eggs is just don't give them anywhere to lay. No nest box, no birdie tents, no hollow coconuts or birdhouses. 9 times out of 10, this is all you need. Just take out any eggs you might find on the bottom of the cage. I do have other videos in which I go over how to prevent egg laying, but even if eggs are laid, no worries. It is all natural. With proper diet, proper housing, and proper exercise with free flight, there should not be any risk of egg binding. In the end, keeping a single bird or a pair is up to the person. It's their decision. But remember, birds are highly sociable creatures, with a high flock drive, and are happier in pairs. The very high flock drive birds like budgies can even be kept in groups. Up to 8 will fit comfortably in one of my recommended cages. Having a whole chatter of budgies playing with each other, living together, playing together, is great entertainment. But if a bird is kept as a single, they need their people to be their flock mates, and will need lots of out-of-cage interaction each and every single day. Yes, a pair will cost a little more to acquire, a little more to keep, and a little more in work and upkeep. But they will be happier and healthier, and be a lot more fun and entertaining. Better companions.